All politics is identity politics. Welcome to Identity Politics. I'm DeAnna. A few weeks ago, a lot of Europeans were very upset with President Donald Trump in the United States because the administration said it wanted Greenland. Of course, this whole stupid thing ended rather abruptly, with the president saying we were going to have sovereignty over some random bits of territory and military bases. Greenland's premier is still upset about this, but it doesn't really matter. Europe went all out over this. French President Emmanuel Macron told Trump that any action over Greenland would trigger unprecedented cascading consequences for NATO. And there was all this talk about how the EU was going to economically disengage from the United States, and Denmark even threatened war, and there was all this tiresome propaganda online about Europe ready to fight. Well, fight for what? I mean, look, it's not like we Americans are in a much better position to beat our chest, what with our demographic situation, but at least rhetorically, the Trump administration and its allies, and even its opponents from the right, are trying to turn the United States in a nationalist direction. Whereas the European Union at this point is just a suicide pact, just utterly dedicated to swamping Europe with the worst immigrants on the planet, threatening member states with sanctions if it doesn't take them, as it is sanctioning Hungary now. Economically, Western Europe is not performing well. France is at least growing somewhat, like 0.5% GDP. Holland 0.4%. Belgian economy was 0.2% last quarter. Germany was just 0.2%. The Danish economy was like more than 2%, and that was like a great success. America was 4.3%. Like the whole point of this stupid neoliberal project is like, oh, look, but the economy and individualism and prosperity. It's not even good at that. Europe is falling farther and farther behind the United States. It's been doing this for a very long time. It's just a failed model. Not that any of these things should be justified on GDP or the economy or whatever, but like that's how they justify it. That's all we ever hear from these people is, oh, the economy, oh, GDP. Well, it sucks. You're not even good at that. And the EU leadership has been bragging about being a regulatory superpower. Well, what does that mean? No military, no economic productivity, but we can like annoy everyone and girl bosses can tax everyone. And we'll make it hard to do business here because we've got this large consumer base under our thumb and we can just lord it over them. Like that's what they're doing. But now we're told things are changing. Now the EU is doing something that is going to take it to the heights of glory and power. It's signing a free trade agreement with India. Yeah, worked out great for Canada. Ursula von der Leyen, the president of the European Commission, who again, no one actually voted for, brags, quote, Europe and India are making history today. We have concluded the mother of all deals. We have created a free trade zone of 2 billion people with both sides set to benefit. This is only the beginning. We will grow our strategic relationship to be even stronger. And they just love these little games of dress up, don't they? This silly woman. Like these people don't just like sneer, but openly deride at the very idea that their own countries have traditions, have cultures, have identity, but they coo like little toddlers when it comes to the nons and their exotic folkways. You can just imagine her saying, but think of the food. And of course, she also adds, long live India. Now, who else is part of the leadership of Europe pushing this deal? Who's this guy in the prime minister's left in that picture you just saw? Oh, this is a guy named Antonio Costa. He is the president of the European Council. And you won't believe what country he has dual citizenship with.
I'm the president of the European Council, but I'm also an overseas Indian citizen. Then, as you can imagine, for me, it has a special meaning. I'm very proud of my roots in Goa, where my father's family came from. And the connection between Europe and India is something personal to me.
Now, you tell me, what country do you think he is more loyal to? He is very proud of his roots in Goa. Can you imagine a modern European leader saying he is very proud of his European roots? To ask the question is to answer it. So this is the great European hedge against America. A deal with India. 2 Indians and a hysterical woman. This is it. Now you know where this is going. What does India want? What does India get out of this? That's right. A flood of Indians coming to Europe.
Ventures. Finally, Prime Minister DeAnna, we both know our greatest wealth are our people. That is why I'm so glad that we are signing an agreement on mobility. We will facilitate the movement of students, researchers, seasonal and highly skilled workers. And this is also why we are launching the first EU legal gateway office in India. It will be a one-stop hub to support Indian talent moving to Europe in full alignment with EU member states' needs and policies. This is good for our economies. This is good for the friendship between our people. And this openness benefits us all. As we conclude this 16th summit, let me reflect on another event of deep meaning. 2 weeks ago, India marked Makar Sankranti. It's the beginning of Uttarayan, the sun's northward journey. From darkness to light, from stillness to growth, from what was to what can be. And that is what makes our summit so unique and timely. The time is right for renewal, for fresh momentum, and for opening a new chapter in EU-India friendship. And this is exactly what we have achieved together today. Thank you very much.
Wasn't enough that Europe was filled with Muslims, wasn't enough that Europe was filled with Africans. What they really need is a ton of Indian scammers. Now, the way they talk about these things, oh, Europe is getting highly skilled workers. Look, we know that's not true. They know it's not true. Look at Canada, look at the United Kingdom, look at America. Once you get swarmed by subcontinentals, it's the universal sign that the plummet toward mediocrity has begun. They're just going to hire their own. They're going to set up their own little scams. They don't actually know how to do the things they say they know how to do. They choke the life out of your business. But for a quarter or two, you can report lower costs. And that's all most executives are interested in. But pretend everything Ursula here is saying is actually true. Why would India go along with this? If anything she was saying was true. Why would India be so eager to part with its highly skilled talent? Yeah. Doesn't bear any kind of examination. We all know this. So what's actually going on here? Now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is actually something of a far-right leader for his people. Now, he's not white, so of course this is allowed. On the oppression pyramid, Hindus seem to be a little less prestigious than Muslims. Every once in a while, some shit-lib reporter starts screaming about how the Muslims in India are actually oppressed, and Modi is basically an ethno-nationalist, but look, he's non-white, so you can basically get away with this. You just kind of vaguely complain British colonialism or blame it on that or something like that. He can do whatever he wants. More to the point, because he's far-right, because he's a blood and soil nationalist, Modi understands what the EU leadership does not, or at least pretends not to understand. Doesn't matter where his people are. Doesn't matter where they live. Doesn't matter what citizenship they technically hold. Doesn't matter where they were born. Doesn't matter what oaths they took. Indians are Indian because real identity is a matter of blood, not paper. It's inherent, and they're going to look after the interests of their own people. The place they live is the place that is being ripped off, and nothing more. In March 2024, The Economist published this: Narendra Modi's secret weapon, India's diaspora. Migrants help campaign for the prime minister at home and lobby for the country abroad. And I quote, some 18 million Indians who retain their nationality live abroad, according to the UN. That makes them the largest diaspora in the world, followed well behind by Mexicans, 11.2 million, and Russians, 10.8. If those who have relinquished their Indian passports are included, the number may exceed 32 million, according to the Indian government's estimates, unquote. And then a little later we learn, Mr. Modi and his BJP, that's his political party, are acutely aware of this. Their election manifesto in 2014 called the diaspora, quote, a vast reservoir to articulate the national interests and affairs globally that would be harnessed for strengthening brand India. The next year, the party's general secretary said the BJP saw the diaspora as India's voice abroad. Quote, the way the Jewish community looks out for Israel's interests in the United States. Unquote. I'm especially angry right now because I don't have my white monster because of the snow. The 7-Eleven was doing cash only, and so I don't have it. So I'm trying really hard not to just reach through the camera and throttle the entire world right now. But the key is this. No one in the entire world is actually opposed to blood and soil nationalism. No one is opposed to the far right. No one is opposed to authoritarianism. No one is opposed to racism. No one. Everyone takes it utterly for granted as self-evidently a positive and good thing for the groups they like and for the groups that they believe are allowed to do it. No one actually believes in civic nationalism. Everybody knows that if your people move en masse into another country and retain their identity and their links with the home country, you didn't lose this population. You didn't lose your best educated and most productive people. You gained influence in a larger marketplace. You essentially have foreign agents and spies within a country that you can now hollow out for your own purposes. India receives $125 billion in remittance annually, about 3 to 3.5% of its GDP. It was just under $130 billion in 2024. It is the largest recipient of remittances in the world. Everyone is right-wing about the peoples and nations and institutions they actually care about. We might even go so far as to say that is what defines right and left. If the left is defined by equality, which it is, what does that mean? You're trying to deconstruct everything. You're trying to have universal access to something. You're trying to cheapen it. You're trying to level it out. You're trying to render it meaningless. What do you do about things that you actually care about, that you actually love? You restrict access. You say membership is important. You say it's exclusive. You say it's better than other things. It's special. It's different. It's unique. So guess what? The Indian diaspora population, according to this article, tends to support the far-right party in India. But that doesn't make any sense. They live in other countries. They're exposed to diversity. They work in the global economy. They should be citizens where they live. No. They care about their real country, which is determined by blood. And at some level, we all know this. The Economist continues, quote, Mr. Modi's emphasis on India's rising global stature resonates with many overseas Indians, says Mr. Dattani. There is a sense that India is now everywhere, and this guy did it, he says. In Abu Dhabi, when Mr. Modi also inaugurated a huge Hindu temple, he was feverishly acclaimed by his fans. For the past 10 years under his rule, India has really evolved, says Ganesh Sarma, a sales executive aged 62. He works only for the country, not for himself, and our relationship with almost the entire world is fabulous now. Efforts by Congress, this is the oppositional political party, have fallen flat. Rahul Gandhi, the party's figurehead, also travels the world to lobby the diaspora. His main concern has been to highlight social problems and Mr. Modi's increasingly authoritarian methods. That resonates with long-standing critics in the diaspora, but turns off most Indians abroad who want to think well of their country, says Mr. Dattani. In 2023, Pew, a pollster, found that Indians in America, both citizens and migrants, had overwhelmingly favorable views of their home country. The BJP has used Mr. Gandhi's foreign visits to paint him as disloyal for talking down his country to foreigners, unquote. But wait, how do they vote in the countries where they actually live? Well, let's look at the United States, for example. According to the Pew Research Center, 68% of Indians support the Democrats. And this is despite the median income being $145,000, meaning that they are wealthy, meaning that despite benefiting from the economic policies that the Republican Party establishment is determined to pass no matter what, they want nothing to do with them. So what do you end up with? You get these kinds of scenes. So this is Representative Ro Khanna, however this alien's name is pronounced, Mowing in Minneapolis the other day.
This is what Minnesota looks like. I said it earlier, fuck these cameras. I'm not here for y'all. But the fact that you are here, sir, shows me that you're willing to lead by example. Everyone say by example.
By example.
There's two ways you're gonna play this game, pimp. We were nice. This brother was a nurse. Now they're willing to kill our nurses. So when you go back to Capitol Hill, tell them I said it. If they bring their asses here, fucking with us, it's gonna get worse. But what we're choosing to do, everyone say choosing to do. Say it with your chest. Say choosing to do. What we're choosing to do is we're choosing to be civil. That's what happens in America. Every morning I'm here, bro. We have said the Pledge of Allegiance with our hand over our heart. We love this country, but we ain't bottom for the bullshit. Okay? One thing that I will say to you, man, in front of all these people. You got kids? You got family. I got kids. Who got kids? Raise your hand. All right. So at some point, we are going to have to give our kids something. We was out here the other day, 29 degree negative. But we out here, right?
Yes.
All right. So if we out here with 40-degree negative heat, my friend, I want you. And we out here now. So I want you to go back to Capitol Hill, and I want you to tell them you spoke directly to me. You spoke directly to someone that's on the ground. My name is Michael Wilson. Common spelling, Michael Wilson. You're cold, I'm cold, but brother, I love you. Our job in this country is to protect from enemies foreign and domestic. One thing I guarantee my life for, going forward, now that I got you here. Every single day I'm out here with the Pledge of Allegiance. Every single day I'm gonna do a nurse roll call. We got any registered nurses out here? Nurses?
I'm a nurse's assistant.
All right.
And that counts.
Now, I got nurses out here, bro.
Engineer.
Hey.
From Chicago.
This is what you, and not saying you, because I know what side you're on. But I want you to leave here with hope.
Yes.
I want you to go back and tell them I left here with hope. I spoke to a young man. He put his heart on the table, but we put our hearts on the table. You know why? Because, sir, we give a fuck. And because we do it because we love our country. We do it because it's the right thing to do. But more importantly, this young man could have saved 10 to 20,000 lives in his lifetime. Come on now. So whatever y'all choose to do, I'm gonna talk to the cameras like I did earlier, because I didn't even come out here to speak. But now that we got these cameras out here for your live feeds, we're not gonna be negative. But thank you, sir. This means a lot to me. It means a lot to me what you're doing. So whatever you need.
Now, there's not a single American in that video. And the spectacle of this ridiculous Indian trying to get down with the hotep saying, now you be saying, yeah, man, we're good, shucking and jiving. No, it makes no sense. These people have nothing in common except they're united by resentment against you. And that is enough. That is enough to build a winning political coalition. That is who is ruling you. And that's what Europe can expect with the flood of Indian immigration that's coming. Oh, well, maybe the Europeans won't give them citizenship. Maybe the Europeans won't give them voting rights. Well, let's look forward a few years. Look at what's happening in Spain right now. The AP reports Spain is granting legal status to immigrants lacking authorization, potentially 500,000 people. Whoa. Spain's government announced Tuesday it will grant legal status to potentially hundreds of thousands of immigrants living and working in the country without authorization, the latest way the country has bucked a trend toward increasingly harsh immigration policies imposed in the United States and much of Europe. The extraordinary measure will be implemented by expediting a decree to amend immigration laws, according to the Spanish Minister of Migration, Aimee Tersese, bypassing a similar bill that has stalled in Parliament. Eligible immigrants will be granted up to 1 year of legal residency as well as permission to work. In contrast to other nations that have moved to restrict immigration and asylum, many emboldened by the Trump administration's policies, Spain has moved in the opposite direction, with Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez and his ministers often extolling the benefits of legal migration to the country's economy and aging workforce. Now, let us pause here. These are the socialists. Surely the immigrants are truly helping the working class. Spain must have a real labor shortage to need so many workers. After all, if you're a socialist, you want a tight labor market. What is the point of a union? To create a tight labor market so wages go up. That's why you do any of these things, right? Well, how is Spain's economy doing? Well, unemployment is 9.9%. It's pretty high. But believe it or not, that's the lowest it's been in like 15 years. But that's still pretty high. You clearly don't need another 500,000 workers. And even in the midst of what passes for an economic boom for Spain, youth unemployment, as reported by Reuters here, remains, quote, stubbornly high at 23%. So more than 1 in 5 Spanish youth can't find a job. So what do we need to do? We need to replace them. And I'm a friend of the working class. I'm standing up against capitalists. I'm fighting the bourgeoisie. I mean, you would think that the socialists would think 23% youth unemployment would be pretty high, but those are Spanish people. If you're on the left, what defines you? You hate those people. What you're interested in is fighting the far right, making sure those guys don't actually do anything that'll help the Spanish people. And then we find out why they're actually doing this. It's not the economy. The Telegraph reports, quote, Spain has started to legalize 500,000 undocumented migrants and give them the immediate right to work in a move, quote, to fight against the advance of the far right. Madrid officially began the process on Tuesday after a last-minute deal between the ruling Socialist Party and the left-wing Podemos Party, which has popped up Pedro Sanchez's minority government since elections in 2023. The government spokesman said, "We not only intend to remain a beacon, but I want to believe that we will be a seed and a germ to fight against the advance of this far-right wave that is trying to gain ground and against which we will do everything in our power to stop it." Podemos said the legislation would help dismantle, quote, institutional racism that only fuels exploitation and racist hatred, while the government cast the move as a political challenge to the right-wing Vox party, which has been steadily rising in the polls, unquote. So there's democracy for you. Your political opponents are rising in the polls. What do? You import 500,000 political reinforcements who you can count on to vote for you. And here's how we know it's a lie, that it's for the economy. Of course these people don't contribute anything. If they contributed anything, they wouldn't have been let in the country. There'd be nothing to gain for the left letting them in. It's because they're parasites. It's because they're dependents. It's because they make things worse. That's the only reason to admit them. That's why the far left wants them in. To return to this article real quick, though, one bright spot. Notice how mainstream the idea of remigration has become. Santiago Abascal, the leader of Vox, accused the prime minister of seeking to replace, in scare quotes, the Spanish population through mass migration. He intends to accelerate the invasion. We must stop him. Repatriations, deportations, and remigrations, he said. Or, the best way he put it, the Spanish people hate the prime minister. That is why he is trying to replace them with migrants who will vote for him. Yeah, that's exactly right. And here's the best part. Spain has a minority government. So again, here's your democracy. It's a minority government. The Socialists just lost a recent regional election. Vox, which is the Nationalist Party, is gaining support. Polls show the center-right and the Nationalists would win a general election next year. There was just a recent rail disaster in Andalusia that killed 40 people. The government's getting all this heat for that. That's like the main issue before this happened. So it's not a strong government. It's not doing well. It doesn't have the support of the people. So you're like, well, how did they get this through the legislature? Didn't you say before that there was a bill that stalled in Parliament? Hey, you're right. They didn't. Royal decree. No vote required. Yeah, democracy. Isn't it great? You don't even get to vote on your replacement. It just happens because like the king or something. Now, Spain is, of course, special to those of us on the right because it's the one recent war where the right put down a left-wing revolutionary movement. I had the interview with Carl Dahl last week where we talked about the Spanish Civil War. And in that, Francisco Franco and his traditionalist coalition basically saved the Catholic Church, which was being threatened with Soviet-style just extinction. How did the church repay it? Wages of tolerance or treachery and betrayal. After Vatican II turned on Franco, in the current situation, it was one of the leading organizations demanding infinity non-white immigrants in Spain. It praised the move as, quote, one of social justice and recognition in a statement. Now, of course, Catholicism is plummeting in Spain, from essentially defining the country under Franco, but then apparently they figured out what the religion actually meant in the 60s and 70s. The first 1,000 years didn't really matter or so, and it's just been bombing ever since. So even in just the last 15 years, Catholicism declined from a strong majority to just over half the people in Spain. It's just dying. But if you're a priest, if you're a cardinal, if you're the Pope, what do you care? What do you care? It's not your real religion. It can be the Catholics, it can be the Protestants, it can be the Jews, it can be the Socialists, it can be the newspaper. It's all just one faith. It's all just one thing. What do they actually care about? What do they actually hold sacred? What are they going to be mad about if you oppose them? If you say, there's something greater in life than making a white minority in every European country, that's blasphemy. That's heresy. That's what they care about. The extinction of their denomination? What do they care? It's just another NGO. Incidentally, the largest foreign population in Spain, Moroccans. The colony that Spain had, where Franco served. But you can't have colonies. You have to give them independence. They want freedom. Well, what happens? Yeah, the minute they get independence, as many Moroccans as possible move to Spain. And then they start complaining there about how they're treated. Oh, they're all Muslim, by the way, too. I'm sure the Catholic hierarchy doesn't care about that. Again, just like the Algerians with France. You fight this long struggle. Oh, you got to give them independence. Oh, every university professor and reporter is so sad. Okay, you're free. Oh, actually, we don't want that. We're going to move to France. I get welfare now. There's never any point to decolonization. They can't govern themselves. The nons are just going to run to the metropole with their hands up. They make things worse. That's what they do. It's all they can do. They are eternal dependents. So why would you bring these people in if you actually care about your country? You don't. It's just spite, man. It's not the economy. It's not like, oh, we're fighting against America. No, it's just spite against the native population. They're bringing in these people because they're the worst, because it'll make things worse, because it's a way to make money and build political power off the exploitation and the destruction of your own countrymen, whom they hate. With this EU deal with India, you have open, overt, blood and soil far-right nationalism on the Indian side. And then on Europe, what do you have? The absurd desire to feel important and have cheap labor, and somehow this is standing up to Trump. Europeans aren't going to get anything out of this other than infinity Indian scammers. And with Spain, it's literally, they're saying it. We're going to legalize these people to keep you out of power, to rig the elections. There's not even the pretense that it's for anything else. And then, of course, you just have these oh, the moral black whale. We feel so terrible. Look, empathy. It's yeah, there's no empathy for the people who are going to get victimized, for the people who are going to be murdered, for the people who are going to be robbed, for the neighborhoods that are going to be destroyed. They don't care about that. You think a single priest or bishop in Spain cares about any of that? No, of course not. The church leaders don't even care about their own faith. They're eagerly dismantling it. They don't care about their own culture. They don't care about what Franco defended. But it's not really their faith, is it? It's not actually what they care about, any more than Spain is actually the country of a socialist. This is where we're at. So much for Europe right now. Now, we've got it better in some ways in America, but again, Battle of Minneapolis continues. Sort of in a halfway point here. We don't really know what's going on. It's too early to say victory or defeat. Now, I will say this. I tend to be more hopeful than many on the online right. It looked like Trump had the advantage yesterday. Leftists were freaking out. So Hassan Piker, who was up there, posted, it's looking like the local and state administrators may have folded and will let ICE continue to operate in Minneapolis with local law enforcement protection in exchange for some fake promises that there will be a real investigation into the two murders and a scale back. I hope this isn't the case and Trump folds given the public backlash. But last night's police activity, which we showed the other day, against the protesters and the administration's refusal to actually prosecute Freddie's murder seems to indicate that Tim Walz might have been sold a lie. On the other hand, you do have people on the right who are pointing to this. You have Donald Trump on Fox News saying, we're going to de-escalate a little bit. Here he is.
You know, Minnesota's in the news a lot, but what they don't say is that Minnesota has low numbers because of the fact that we took thousands of hardened criminals out of Minnesota. So they had good crime numbers, believe it or not. And that's all working out. You know, we have Tom Homan there now. We put him in there. He's great. And they met with the governor, the mayor, everybody else, and we're going to de-escalate a little bit. But I will tell you, you look at the numbers, they're doing better than they've done in many years because we took thousands of criminals out of Minnesota.
And then after that, you have Nick Sotor saying they're no longer going after illegals as such. They're only going after people who have committed other crimes.
One of the stories that I've unfortunately been hearing this morning is that Border Patrol agents have now been given new orders not to, for example, if they were to run a license plate and it comes back as that person is an illegal that Border Patrol was forced to let into the country under Joe Biden, they are no longer allowed to arrest that person.
And is this
even
the first
though they know for a fact that's illegal?
Is this new information that you're just bringing to light right now, that these new orders? Okay. And I don't want you to reveal your sources, but you have someone who you trust on this. You believe this is a matter of official, actual approach and policy now.
This actually came from two separate Border Patrol agents on the ground in Minnesota. They're very, very frustrated. Obviously, they feel like one of them actually said that this feels like we just reverted to the Biden days.
So, Chad, are we cooked? Well, no. DHS is supposedly sending, I even heard 1,000 guys, 1,000 more guys to Minneapolis. You have immigration raids right now going on in Los Angeles and Phoenix and also in Washington. The Trump administration just won in court against a motion from Minnesota AG Attorney General Keith Ellison saying that they have to stop the immigration enforcement. This was a report from local news, so that was a big victory for the Trump administration. And you have Tom Homan in Minnesota right now. And then today, Trump warned Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey that he's going to have to enforce federal immigration law. Again, just words, but he's not backing down rhetorically. Now, of course, the courts are going to try to screw everything up here, but the administration itself is not backing down. What about the opposition? Tim Walz is basically crashing out. He's fantasizing that he would beat J.D. Vance if he could go back in time and do that vice presidential debate.
I would beat the shit out of him now if I could, and I would call that out. I mean, that's just different. In verbally going at it, my argument is much better. In making the case that housing prices are up because of immigration and that we should build on federal lands, it was such a crazy thing. But then when I watched him, I got sucked into that. And if you remember, this was right in that moment of eating dogs and cats. I took that bait and thought that that was the argument of how outrageous it was. That was not the argument.
And he said that your cops are liars. He said that the ICE agents aren't.
They all did. That's exactly right. That this is the problem with them. And well, the president said it, that we told them to stand down. Do you think they would do that? Do you think that police would not protect citizens, no matter if I'm like, oh, don't do this? But yes. Well, this is the whole paradox with these guys. They don't back the blue. They don't back police. January 6th proved that. Fanone and the rest of those guys will tell you that. They back the blue when you're with them.
What a tough guy, huh? Like a year later, he thought of the perfect comeback. Well, the jerk store called and they're running out of you. Like, he's done. He's done. They're still investigating him. His lieutenant governor is in those signal chats. Yes, I know nothing happens and no jury will convict him up there and whatever else, but he is worried. Who knows what else is there? And again, he canceled his reelection campaign, which you don't do unless you're spooked. And for what it's worth, DHS says the operation is still ongoing. Quote, Operation Metro Surge continues to remove criminal, illegal aliens from the neighborhoods of Minnesota. We are putting Minnesotans first and getting violent criminals out of our communities. And leftists are reporting that DHS just required a military base near St. Paul, so they're actually ramping up. And so on. There's a lot of these reports coming in now. Like, leftists are freaking out. This is what's so weird about it, is both on the hard right and on the left, both sides are saying we lost and our leaders sold us out. Like, that's actually where we are. Now, again, too early to say. But here's the thing that's really ominous. It's not from the administration. From the Republican Party, which is always eager to sound retreat, you are now seeing a push for amnesty from some Republicans. So here's Republican Mike Lawler.
He has also won the argument when it comes to deporting criminal aliens. Most Americans agree with that. Where I think most Americans also agree is that if you have been in this country 5, 10, 15, 20 years, you've been working, you've not committed crimes, you have children or grandchildren that are American citizens, we want a legal path forward, not citizenship, not amnesty, but a legal process forward that those people can come out of the shadows and go through. The reality is we're not going to be able to round everybody up and kick them out.
Now, here's the issue. Obviously, we could just get rid of these people. Iran got rid of 3.6 million Afghan migrants, I think, just in the last year. With sufficient will, of course we can do this. But he doesn't want to. And when you have this kind of talk like, well, it's about being pragmatic, it's about being solution-based. No, that's done. You can't make that argument anymore. You know why? The border is shut down. It's over. We don't have to use amnesty to shut down the border. We've already proved that can be done. The only issue is how do you drain the population that's here? And we know with absolute certainty that amnesty leads to more illegal immigration. So you don't have to listen to this stuff. You don't have to entertain this stuff. Fox News doesn't have to give a platform to this stuff. You don't need amnesty to secure the border or solve the problem, even in theory. Like, the problem as far as incursions is solved. It's just a question of how do you deal with the people who are here now? And if we can't do it, then law is optional. If that's the status quo, then we should start demanding laws that apply to us are optional. We shouldn't have to pay taxes. If I go to jail, it separates me from my family. I shouldn't have to pay. We shouldn't have to obey gun laws. It's hard to enforce. Is it really realistic to hunt everybody down? I mean, look, that may actually happen. Here in Virginia, the Democrats just proposed a bill that overnight would mean most gun owners in the state turn into criminals because they own a magazine that holds more than 10 bullets, or they have a weapon that is now an assault rifle. Who proposed such a law? That seems like a crazy departure from American norms. Well, I mean, who can't trust, I should say, this great Virginian man named Saddam Aslan Salim. born in Bangladesh. But no, he's American, just like you and me. We share common interests. There's your legal immigration. The minute they get the chance, they move to criminalize the opposition. They're serious about power. It's because you're innocent, it's because you're productive that they want to destroy you. In contrast, the Republicans, because fundamentally they do not believe in their right to rule, they immediately look for an excuse to surrender. So the New York Times notes, Republicans shift tone after killings, criticizing Trump's immigration push. An excerpt. On Tuesday, Representative Andrew Garbarino, the New York Republican who leads the House Homeland Security Committee, announced that top administration immigration officials would testify before the panel on February 10th after Mr. Garbarino called for their appearance immediately after Mr. Pretty's killing on Saturday. Transparency and communication are needed to turn the temperature down, Mr. Garbarino said in setting the date for the hearing. Senator Rand Paul, of course, the Kentucky Republican who heads his chamber's Homeland Security panel, announced a similar session on February 12th. In another sign of Republican unease with the immigration push, Representative Mark Amodol of Nevada, who leads the spending panel responsible for the Homeland Security Department's funding, criticized Secretary Kristi Noem's response to the shootings in an interview with the Nevada Independent. He said a pivot in immigration enforcement tactics was necessary because regardless of what side of immigration enforcement you're on, we are not in a good place right now. Senator Thom Tillis, the North Carolina Republican who has announced his retirement, went further on Tuesday, becoming the first in his party to call for Mrs. Noem's firing. What she's done in Minnesota should be disqualifying, he said at the Capitol, adding, she needs to go. In the House, Representatives Brian Fitzpatrick, Republican of Pennsylvania, and Tom Suozzi, Democrat of New York, leaders of the Problem Solvers Caucus, wrote to Mr. Trump asking for a meeting to discuss a broad immigration overhaul because his border successes are now being overshadowed by interior enforcement that has given rise to a growing rejection by the public. Now, keep in mind, the GOP has been in charge of the House and the Senate since the election. They've done nothing but pass one major piece of legislation. They haven't even appointed or confirmed Trump's appointees. Like, he nominated all these guys to fill positions. They didn't even vote on them. They just won't do it. Like, you need to understand, nobody hates their own voters the way these people do. They want to be liked by the press. They want to be liked by non-whites. They want to be liked by their biggest donors. They want to have a position that matters. They don't want to represent icky middle-class white people. Like Thom Tillis in North Carolina. I've been writing about that guy for years on VDare. The only consistent belief he has is amnesty, 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 cheap labor, cheap labor, cheap labor. He's retiring because he knows he can't win anymore. What is he doing with this latest move? Like, he doesn't have a future in politics, so what's he doing? He's setting himself up for the corporate lobbying job. Mark my words. This is why he's doing this. Delivering cheap labor is how they see their job. So they're going to do whatever it takes to pass amnesty. They do not care about winning re-election. They do not care what happens to the party. They do not care what happens to the country. They do not care about their political careers. The political career is a means to make money and get a job that matters as they see it in the private sector. That's what they care about. The theoretical case for amnesty that you needed to secure the border, that is utterly gone. Trump disproved that within week one, and nobody has learned anything. They've always been this way. This has been the story my entire life. I mean, think of like the great conservative heroes of the past. Newt Gingrich, grassroots favorite for conservatives all these years ago, the way the press would talk about him. Oh, he's right of Attila the Hun, all this stupid stuff. He led the Republican Revolution in 1994. He's so hardcore. He's a potential great man of history. He did all these things. Yeah, here he is.
Process. So I think there are two things. We need a national conversation about what we're going to do about people who've come here, some of them 20 years ago, who've been obeying the law, paying taxes, good neighbors, have kids, go to PTA. Very few Americans want to see the police walk in and pick them up and deport them. On the other hand, people do not want to give them citizenship. So there should be some middle ground here on long-term goals.
10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, you could have that same conversation. Well, they're good people. We need to have a national conversation. National conversation. Why was Donald Trump elected? Twice. 3 times, depending on who you talk to. Because again and again, those Republicans telling their base, we need unlimited masses of people from the third world. The Republican base kept saying no. And they said, we will vote for anyone who just closes the border and gets rid of these people. And the Republicans just refused. The conservative movement refused. And then this reality TV star steps up. And the whole conservative movement and the whole Republican Party in 2016 says, no, not this guy. And the base goes, you know what? No, this guy. Because we're so sick of this. They literally burned down the party, ignored the conservative movement, or made a reality TV star the tribune of the people because they're so determined. And nobody learned anything. Not one mind has been changed. Nobody in the Beltway has thought about this. No one has reflected. No one in Congress has thought about this. The arguments haven't been updated in 40 years. You bring up the Reagan amnesty and the consequences of that, you get a blank stare. They just are that ignorant, that pig stupid. And yet the Democrats, they're moving to shut down the government over funding ICE. They want to push through a reform where you need a judicial warrant to detain illegals. What does that mean? It means you can't do anything to them if they're in the country illegally. They have to do something else too. Again, the law just doesn't matter. They're not white. They operate as part of a racial bloc. You don't. So they get to stay. They get to ignore the law. You don't. You have to pay for them. It is that simple. And going back for years and years and years, you have solid majorities of the American people saying again and again, deport all illegals, not the criminals, not some of the illegals, not like the ones the media says you're allowed, not the ones the priests say you're allowed to. No, they're illegals. They got to go over and over and over again. This is the majority of people. And yet this majority position is entirely unrepresented within the American government. Like not even Trump is doing that, if he even could under this system, which I doubt. Like, that's democracy. And the critical figure here is, of course, President Trump. Now, President Trump is not backing away from Kristi Noem. This is him this morning.
I have, yeah. I think she's doing a very good job. The border is totally secure. You know, you forget. We had a border that I inherited where millions of people were coming through. Now we have a border where no one is coming through. They come into our country only legally. So you have to remember those things. You know, people forget as soon as you accomplish something, it goes into history and nobody ever wants to talk about it. We had a border that caused all of this problem. Biden caused, and the Democrats caused this problem. They allowed tens of millions of people to come in. Many of them were murderers. Many were drug dealers, drug addicts, people from mental institutions. They allowed these people to violate our country, to come into our country. And that's what we're talking about. So if you remember, we had a horrible border, the worst border we've ever had, ever in history. People were flowing through by, we think, 25 million people, not to mention drugs and everything else. And that border is absolutely closed.
Okay, that's something. But again, what is he talking about here? He's talking about illegal border crossings. Yeah, fine. It's great that they're down or done, whatever, but we're kind of past that, aren't we? Like, we're talking about removing illegals, and there aren't 10 million, there aren't 15 million. It's probably like 30 million, probably more. I mean, Biden himself let in 8 million, according to the estimates I've seen, and apparently it was just illegal to stop him, and none of the Republicans did anything about that. Nobody proposed impeachment. Nobody did anything. Keep in mind, too, all these guys ICE is arresting, the courts of Minnesota are working as hard as possible to free all these people. Like, they have a judge who's hearing these cases who literally donates to an immigration NGO. And, like, that's who's ruling on this stuff. So, of course, he's letting these people go. And yet, the people still are showing some courage here. There was a new poll taken after the second shooting, that's the Alex Priddy shooting, that found that most Americans still support the president's immigration actions. More than 50% there. Now, again, there's kind of soft wording here. Do you support the president's actions on illegal immigration? But there it is. The fact is, normal American people seem to have a better constitution about all this than most Republican elected officials, most conservative pundits, even most hard-right pundits. What does that tell you? It's been said that the leadership of the Democrats is to the left of the average Democratic voter, and the leadership of the Republicans is to the left of the average Republican voter. It really should be the opposite. You should have leaders that are harder, that are more dedicated, that are more stalwart than the masses. But on the American right, it's the opposite problem. Everybody just has this constant search for reasons to lose, for an excuse to opt out, because they fundamentally believe they don't They don't believe that they have the right to rule. That's really the heart of it. They don't believe that they can justify wielding power. And they can't think of themselves except as a minority in opposition begging for scraps. That's what they see the purpose of being in politics is. But what the American people want is something totally different. It's extremely clear. It's been clear for 20 years. We deserve better leadership. And when you look at what's happened to our country, don't blame the people. We didn't vote for this. Your people did not vote for this. They never surrendered to it. They told their representatives again and again, we don't want this. And it was shoved down their throats. Same thing in Europe. Oh, the Eurocucks are so wimpy. They never voted to destroy their continent. The same thing happened to them. That's happening to us. The problem is this: stop looking for someone else to save us. It's literally just us. And the terrifying thing, and I know people don't want to admit this, in terms of real world politics, in terms of a guy who has actually gotten elected and could get elected, Donald J. Trump is the best there is. And it's not close. Well, he's not going far enough. Well, he's not going to do anything. Maybe you're right. But if you want someone who is right, you better step up. Because it's really just up to us. The conservatives are never going to learn because they never wanted to win in the first place. Hey guys, quick reminder before we continue. You can follow Identity Politics on Rumble, Odyssey, YouTube, X, and TikTok. And if you want to make sure you never miss an episode, sign up for our email list. If you believe in this work and you want to help us stay fully independent, you can support us directly on Ko-Fi. We offer bronze, silver, gold, and white membership tiers, or you can give a one-time contribution, whatever works for you. Every bit of support helps fund production, research, and our ability to speak freely without corporate or platform pressure. All the links are in the description below. Now back to the show. My guest today is Aimee Tersese, who's been well known in our circles for a long time. She's been hammering away at the psychology of the left and what's really at stake in Minneapolis over the last few days. She joins Identity Politics today. Check it out. Well, it's a real pleasure to have you on here, Aimee. I mean, you've been killing it on X lately. I got to say, I've loved the feed lately.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot.
I really liked the post where you said that left and right are biological categories, and no, I will not explain, because I was like, yes, that's exactly what I've been thinking.
I mean,
for
they
so
are,
long.
though. Like, they really are. Like, I feel like it's just like it becomes more and more apparent to me every day. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just,
I mean,
yeah.
People say things like, well, we need to get beyond left and right, and we need to look beyond these categories and everything else. But it seems like these categories are becoming more meaningful. Like there's definitely a type. I mean, I don't want to get too out there, but it's almost like
those
they're
people
racist.
I feel like anyone saying that is a hack. Like they're trying to mislead you. Like the idea that we need to get beyond left and right. It's like, well, okay, but there's one particular side of politics that's fucking destroying everything. So like, I don't really know how we get beyond that when there's like, it's like, I'm sorry, but it's friend enemy at this point. And like pretending that these things are like analogous when what, like leftists don't want anyone normal to be alive.
Right.
Like
I mean, that sounds overstated, but it's true.
No, they just want to normalize like the most psychotic bullshit, and then anyone normal gets just demonized, terrorized, and destroyed. Like I've never seen anything like such a clear like delineation between like good and evil, and like also just ugly and not so ugly. And it just seems like crazy to me that anyone would pretend these things are like, you know, that the lines are like blurry or it's hard to tell the difference or these categories don't matter. Like, yeah, unserious people.
Well, beauty standards are fascist, so obviously, I mean, if you're standing up for ugliness, that's actually a way of standing up for social justice. I actually used to hear that kind of stuff at anarchist conventions.
Yeah, see, long before I thought that like fascism was anything like interesting politically, I called myself an aesthetic fascist for like a decade, just in terms of like, I just like things that are attractive and like, I think that beauty is like meaningful. Like it is actually like a worthwhile category in its own right. And it's crazy to me the way that absolute ugliness and disgust, like things that are genuinely disgusting and repulsive are like put on pedestals by people. And I honestly quite often just feel like I'm in some kind of like weird fairy tale with these people because they just tell you like the craziest shit. And it's just, I'm sorry, I can't get down with this. This is wild. Like what are you doing?
Well, it does seem like the stakes are becoming more existential lately, especially with what's going on with the immigration thing here in Minneapolis and everything else. And there used to be a time, I mean, you can see why people used to say things like, well, right and left, these arbitrary things. But popping the Red Bull, I wish I could.
Actually.
I'm dying here without my white monster, man. You have no idea. You have no idea. I'm so angry right now. But we're at the point now where it almost seems like, what is the point of conversation? I mean, what do we have to discuss with these people?
I don't think you can communicate with them because they live in another world. Like they live in unreality. Like their whole world is make believe. They're like basically. Do you remember that Pokemon game that was like a live action Pokemon thing?
Where people are wandering around and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like that's what they're doing. Like they're playing that game. They're playing this actual live action game, but each of them is in this Marvel lib shit universe where they're the hero and they're saving all these oppressed peoples or whatever. But the whole thing is nonsense. It's total narcissism where they imagine themselves these heroes, but they're not heroes. They're just losers who go and get themselves murked for no reason.
I thought it was amazing. When they said to the one
it's kind of sad in some general sense, but I don't personally care about these people. So I'm not. I also think that if the choice for an ICE agent is between shooting some fucking retard who's attacking them and being attacked, I don't actually think it's a tragedy that somebody got shot because the alternative was bad. So it's justice. I'm not going to say it's a tragedy or it's sad. When somebody meets a terrible end due to their own actions, I can't really feel sad about that. They chose that.
Yeah, the nurse who just got shot, apparently the week before he had gotten a broken rib with a previous confrontation with law enforcement, and then he went out there again doing this kind of thing. The video shows.
They're so horny. They're horny for it. These are people who've never been in any kind of physical conflict in their lives, and they're just they think they can go down and play the hero. It's crazy.
I thought it was amazing when Renee Nicole Good, that first one who got shot, when her wife, quote unquote, said afterward to the law enforcement, "Why do you guys have real bullets?" What do you mean? Why do you have real bullets?
Right.
What do you think this is?
Yeah. They live in unreality.
We're shooting paintballs. What do you think this is?
Fully. It's I feel like that these women, especially more so the women, it's they've never had an effective boundary of any kind enforced, and so they just keep escalating things. And these ICE agents, they're the picture of masculine authority and sort of boundary enforcement insofar as they have masks on, you can't see their identity. It's almost like a sort of cartoonish element to it. And so these women just go and sort of basically it's the only form of actual resistance in the feminized world as it now is. It's the only people who are going to say no to them and draw hard lines, I don't know if that makes any sense, but I really do think that's part of what's going on. It's a kind of a weird thing.
It's like the ultimate shit test. I mean, this is what's actually happening.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
We come full circle. It does actually come down to this.
But it is kind of fatherless behavior, especially Renee Good. It's she'd had 2 previous husbands, children with different men, and then and then her third attempt was she'd gone lesbian. This woman was basically my age. The idea that I would have been married twice by now and then switched the other, what? It just sort of makes sense on some level that she ran out in such a ridiculous fashion. Her life was ridiculous also. Also, I'm sorry, but when they lean into the mother bit or the nurse bit or whatever, it's I'm sorry, but it makes it worse that she was a mother. That she had children who were relying on her. And yet she was carrying on like this, protecting actual fucking rapists, child rapists and predators. This person's a scumbag. I don't feel like I'm not going to like have sympathy for, this sort of rhetorical soft power of her being a mom or whatever when she's like neglecting her children and putting herself in a risky position rather than protecting them. It's stupid to then like afford her this kind of moral authority as a mother. It's ridiculous. I don't know. Sorry.
No, that's exactly right. And they've been using this over and over again. I mean, what was the big story all last week? Like, oh, we have this 5-year-old. The 5-year-old is being arrested. It's like, no, his dad ran away. And then there was another case.
Scumbag.
Right. And then you had another case where you had a mother and a baby. They're like, they go to the ICE agents. They're like, oh, we want to say goodbye to our dad. And they open the door and they're like, okay, you can say goodbye. And the guy runs away. It's like every time.
No good deed goes unpunished. Yeah, you get these people in it, they'll take them out. Yeah.
And it seems like every appeal to empathy at this point, and this may be what's really, because it's not just that it's a political divide. Like, we've lost the ability to communicate. Like, I have nothing to say to leftists. I don't even know what I would say, because we see reality so differently. Even if you're watching a video, we're seeing two totally different things, like Scott Adams talked about, two movies on the same screen. But at this point,
the priors are just so different that like you would have to break down so much to even start to understand one another. And leftists have no interest in doing that. And even if they did, there would be no purpose. There would be no point, because none of this is about reasoned, rational debate. That's not how anything is being decided right now.
What do you think's at the core of it? I mean, if we really want to get into it, I mean, if right, and I agree, right and left speak to something very primal about us, like, what is it?
I think leftists basically are like they're this kind of like lumpen middle brow, not homogenous, but they're just basically kind of like banal people who are not exceptional in any way, who feel that the society as it currently exists is unjust and illegitimate, and so they set about then like desecrating, despoiling, destroying everything. And so like they've sort of given themselves,
so it's a negative identity, basically.
It is, but then they mask it with all this like self-aggrandizing nonsense about what decent people they are.
Yeah, the moral self-righteousness I've always found to be fascinating about it, because when I was working in the conservative movement, they would always say things like, oh, the liberals are moral relativists. And it's like, these are the least like moral relativistic people who have ever lived.
Oh,
they make sweeping judgments all the time.
They're fucking lunatics. They're total like absolutists. But the problem is that when you use philosophical terms that are sort of universalist, like relativism or any of these other idealistic terms, it's like what you're discussing at that point is not something political, because this isn't happening like on a piece of paper. So like they're neither relativists nor absolutists. What they are is fucking political. So they have one set of standards in relation to their enemy and another set of standards in relation to their allies. Like, because so they're actually very consistent insofar as it's like real pain for my enemies and champagne for my friends. Like, that's their whole bit. Like, they're not inconsistent. They're extremely consistent.
Why is it that the right can't seem to think in this way? Or at least, I mean, already you see Republicans in Congress getting weak knees about the immigration enforcement. You just take for granted that the left will go to the mat, whereas the right, always looking for a reason to surrender.
Yeah, it's wild to me the extent to which, like, the left can do the same, like, subversive games. It's basically like Darvo tactics constantly, where, like, they do this diabolical bullshit, set it up so that it looks as if the bad guy is the right. And then the right then goes, okay, yeah, we're going to play the heel and, like, apologize to you guys for existing, basically.
Right.
It's just like, are you serious? Like, Biden let conservatively speaking, like 12 million people invade your country within 4 years, how the fuck are you supposed to deport them in any manner that is not going to have liberals shrieking their tits off? Like, I'm sorry to be so vulgar, but like, it's not possible to do this in any manner that will not result, like, where libs will not just hysterically scream. And as far as I'm concerned, like, you don't have a society if whoever screams the loudest, like an absolute toddler, gets some kind of like they don't get veto power because they scream and have a tantrum. Like, this is basic stuff. Like, how is it that everyone falls for it over and over and over again?
Yeah, exactly. And it's somehow worse than that. It's not just that they get like a heckler's veto. It seems to be that the weaker and the more neurotic, and let's be honest, just mentally disturbed you are, the more political power you somehow get. Like, I see these leftists on Twitter, and it's like, oh, I'm suicidal. I have all these mental disorders. I have 10 million pronouns. And here's my program for how society should be governed. It's like, but why?
That's right.
Why should I listen to you?
Yeah, that's what makes them an authority, is that they're completely fucking retarded and they'll tell you all about it. Like, I really do think there is this kind of strength of weakness thing going on where,
no, expand on that. I agree.
You were sort of you were legitimized by the fact of your own like patheticness, because the way that the left gains power is by holding up like examples of total like degeneracy and people that they like pretend are oppressed. So anyone who can sort of like occupy that kind of like position of abject worthlessness is basically like a chip that they can trade in for power, effectively.
So the worse society gets, both on an individual basis, they're empowered, and then also on a political basis, they're empowered. So they really have no interest in solving any of the problems that they claim to be talking about.
They're not trying to solve problems. They're trying to destroy things. Like that, they genuinely hate like order, coherence, like any form of hierarchy, any kind of like delineating between good and bad, better and worse. Like I think that ultimately, like, putting aside all the sort of like the ideas and the way they like sort of dress up their nonsense. At the end of the day, like, leftism is just like a drive towards annihilation.
Yeah,
that's it. That's all it is.
Yeah, I think because that's the only time we're all finally equal.
Yes, that's right. Exactly. When you like, and all their shit about suffering too. It's like, you should be extremely suspicious when anyone is talking about eliminating suffering. The only way you eliminate suffering is by eliminating like people.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, it's just
life is suffering.
Suffering is part of life. Exactly.
Right.
And so like, so these sort of like real binary categories where they just want to eliminate everything that's bad and mean and unkind and unfair and all this shit. It's just like all that drives towards is just like euthanasia, abortion, like all this crazy like death drive nonsense. Like letting criminals out into the streets to terrorize like law-abiding people. Leftists seem to think that's good. That's what this whole thing is all about. Like they're literally projecting like actually like the worst of the sorry to use the DHS phrase, but like this isn't about like Jose who mows your lawn or whatever and isn't here legally. Like it's literally about like violent felons. And they're going to their mat to defend them, which actually makes a whole lot of sense because like that's what this is. That's what this whole thing always was.
Right. Well, I mean, you had some experience dealing with the political left for a little while, right? In some of the previous podcasts and things like that. I mean, what made you see it this clearly?
Well, I think for the longest time, like I sort of had thought I was a leftist or whatever, but like the thing is in Australia, it's not politicized anything like the way it is in the United States. So like had I been in the States, there would have been pretty obvious signs from way earlier because I was writing like articles in the uni newspaper, like pissing off feminists deliberately and stuff like this. Right. Like, it's like, you know, 20 years,
get away with
like 15, 20 years ago. Yeah, see, but like I had no idea that was like quote unquote, like, you know, conservative or right wing or whatever at the time. I just thought the feminists were fucking losers and I wanted to annoy them. But ultimately, yeah, as I sort of interacted with these the sort of like Brooklyn journalist Jacobin type leftist people a few years ago, it just became really apparent to me that these people were fucking losers. They were like mentally ill, psychotic and unpleasant and quite sadistic as well. And I just, in particular, there was this one sort of incident that really like stuck with me where you had like Angela Nagel wrote this article about how the left shouldn't defend open borders because it basically goes against everything they've ever defended with the labor movement for like 100 years, right? And it was a very anodyne, like leftist case, not against immigration, but against literally open borders. There's no one on the left who's ever made a coherent argument in support of open borders, right? So it's not as if that was their publicly stated position at the time. Their publicly stated position at the time was like, you know, heavily favor legal immigration, like all the nonsense that they say. And yet the moment that it got published, it was as if like just a total banhammer had come down and Angela was suddenly like persona non grata, and literally they all went into overdrive, like calling her a Nazi and just going like completely mental about it. And I suddenly realized that like whatever it is that these people say they're doing is completely different to what they're doing, because this is like, there is a form of sort of political consensus creation that happens through just like the publishing of articles and things like this, where all these like this chattering class of like leftoid activists are actually enacting party discipline in terms of the way they cancel people and what they cancel people for. And so like, if you can't even say that open borders doesn't seem like the best idea to the people who allegedly talk about like restricting labor supply and protecting labor, then, then
what are we
like
doing?
The whole thing is mental. Yeah. And then I talked to, at the time, like the editor of Jacobin said that, that I said, so like, what do you think would be too much in terms of, you know, annual immigration? I said, if there was like, you know, what if it was like 12, 18 million people a year? Is that too many? He goes, well, it's just a matter of like, you know, however many, basically started spouting this line that sounded totally indistinguishable from like Bill Clinton, Hillary, like neoliberal 90s shit, where it's like, any displaced workers can be compensated via the welfare system and all this crap, you know, when everything got offshore and they're just like, we'll like reallocate resources. And I'm just like, you're no different than them. You guys are just Democrats, but you use radical rhetoric.
So what you were talking about was basically this sort of dirtbag left culture and how essentially it was like fake and a cover for sadism and this hive mind mentality where what they were saying, what they were claiming publicly really had nothing to do with what they actually wanted.
Yeah, and they were also just like gay losers with like no social skills. I think that was actually very conspicuous to me as well, where suddenly I was like, these people are weird and off-putting. And like, I could totally imagine that if I hung out with them in real life, they would be cloying and like trying to impress me. But when they're on the computer, when they have their like, you know, they act in these sort of like swarms, they'll like say all this repulsive, horrible stuff. And it's just like, I think you people are quite antisocial. And so like you try to fuse like the totally antisocial retardation with their like highfalutin, we just care about people and like empathy crap. Right. It's just like, I'm sorry, but I'm just not buying any of this anymore. Just the whole thing.
I think that's the biggest thing. At this point, whenever somebody starts appealing to empathy, I just assume they're trying to sell me on something.
This is trick me. When I hear that shit, that to me is just like, oh, toxic psycho alert. Like,
right.
You don't need to tell people to empathize with people. That's something we do automatically as humans. It's actually a total boundary violation to even be like telling other people what they're supposed to feel. Fuck off. Like, sorry, I shouldn't swear that way. But like these
I mean, you're Australian, we'll forgive it.
They think that they can like manage other people's emotions and tell them what they're allowed to feel and how they're supposed to emote. And it's just, to me, as far as I'm concerned, like, how I feel or how I respond or like the emotional reaction that I have to anything, if any, is my business, not yours. Like, that's not something you get to control or like
but that's what
mandate. They're these like emotion managers who will like punish you if you don't express the mandated like emotional response to all this nonsense. It's like one of the things that I triggered the losers with like 6 months ago. I just said, I don't care about Africans. This had it like Matt Iglesias and a bunch of others like in conniptions, and it's just like the idea that you think that this is something you can punish anyone for saying is wild to me. I don't have to care about Africans. Why?
And the idea that they even care. I mean, this is something that's at the core.
Give a fuck. No. It's just a moral baton with like a cudgel that they beat people with. Like I think really like they use all that stuff. Like the only people that libs care about happen to be on the other side of the planet because libs are scum and they don't treat anyone well, and they're horrible to their neighbors and their families. And so, like, you want to tell me, but they're so lovely to people on the other side. But no, they're feral to everyone, obviously.
Yeah, this is something people have noticed for a long time. I mean, people talk to, I think Dostoevsky said something about how a universal love for humanity is usually a cover for narcissism. If you look at people like Rousseau, who had all sorts of like grand theories about, humanity needs to be organized this way. This is the way children need to be raised. And of course, he abandoned his own. I think Charles Dickens they used to make fun of, I think Dickens made fun of like these people these philanthropists who this is Victorian England. And you had like rich society women going like, the poor Africans, what do we do? And meanwhile, there's all these like starving people in London. And of course, they don't care about any of these people because those people are English. And so, ew, gross. And you sort of see this over and over again where it seems like the more universal the empathy, the more specific it's actually directed at very particular hatreds.
Yeah, I actually have like, at the risk of sounding sort of pedantic, I at this point reject even the premise that empathy has anything to do with what's going on. I think these people basically are like not like incredibly narcissistic, and I don't mean that as an epithet. I mean that as in like,
scientifically, almost, yeah.
Yeah, almost, yeah, descriptively. Like, and I think that what is going on is that they have a sort of grandiose sense of themselves, overinflated ego that is fragile at the same time. And basically what they do is inflate their sense of importance and, like basically make themselves the main character by animating this like concern for their lessers. But it's not from a place of empathy. It's from a place of both self-interest and also contempt and disdain. Like it's got nothing to, like they feel like the larger person because they have these constant dependent, like useless factions that depend on them. It's the same reason why they all do those like stupid jobs where they work with degenerates, like doing free legal stuff for like black criminals and all that, like all those stupid jobs that that they managed to get carve-outs from the state to fund as well. Like all that shit is just them being like these moral martyr, like heroes, where they're the hero in the story, where they're the center of the thing and they have all these losers who depend on them.
And it's not even a sacrifice anymore because as you pointed out, and you were posting about this earlier today, these NGOs are getting tremendous amounts of money from the taxpayer. It's not even charity. Yeah. They're not even really NGOs. They're government organizations.
I think it's like an indulgence racket akin to like corrupt churches in the Middle Ages, basically. Like,
yeah, that's exactly right.
They tell themselves that they're such good people for doing all this stuff, but like they're lucratively getting rewarded for it. So like I also don't really believe it. Like I think that if you want to do things. Basically, I really do think that like institutionalized charity and all this stuff is like nonsense. If you want to do nice things for people, go do them and do it in private. Like all this stuff is nonsense. These are like horrible people who enjoy having like groups of like worthless, useless people that they keep like milling about and they weaponize to attack the people that they're jealous of. And they sort of use them as these like political both footballs and then also like, just live bodies that will vote for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Bioweapons, basically.
Yeah, they really are like biotrash, bioweapons.
I mean, it sounds uncharitable, but like if they weren't that, they wouldn't be brought in. I mean, this is sort of the point I always make with immigration, where every once in a while they'll say something like, oh, well, these people are going to help the economy. And it's like, no, if they were going to help the economy, they wouldn't be brought in. If these people were productive, if they were going to make the country wealthier, if they were going to make the country stronger, there'd be landmines on the border. It's because they won't do these things that they're being brought in.
It's because they're useless dependents who will vote for the Democrats till the day they die.
Right. Until they decide one day that the Democrats aren't far left enough. I mean, given the demographic transformation that's going on, I mean, we have the terrifying possibility that somebody like Gavin Newsom could be like the far right in something like 30 years if you don't actually reverse this thing, because there's no bottom to this process. I mean, it's not like anybody learns when the society does in fact collapse.
That's the thing where I see this, like, sorry to just circle back to something we were talking about it earlier, is that like these Republicans, I see them saying things like, well, if we just let the left, the way the left will learn is if we let them have a taste of their medicine.
Right. Megyn Kelly saying this with like Minnesota, like, oh, we'll just send them there. Like,
yeah. Let me just rephrase what you said. What you said is, we'll give the left everything they want, and then they'll learn a lesson. What lesson will they learn? What are you talking about? Like that, they don't share your values. So like when you look at the disgusting like hovel world that they create and you think, oh, that's awful, they're going to learn from that awful situation that their policies are bad, and then they're going to come crawling with like their tail between their legs and beg us to help them. No, they're not. They like that disgusting hovel world. That's what they want. Like,
right.
When are you going? They don't share your values. Like, you really need to like internalize that.
Why can't they internalize it? Like, I guess this is the big question, because you look at the left and you could say, well, like my boss Jared Taylor, of course, is always saying, you know, don't mind read, don't impugn motives to people. Take them at their word and everything else. And I'll disagree with it, but you know, he's the boss. And if you're dealing with argument, but like what I understand, I'll admit that he has a point that I can't fully understand the mindset of a leftist because I'm not one, but I understand conservatives and I understand right wingers because I was surrounded by these people for decades. Yeah. But what I don't understand is why they refuse to see these people for what they are. Like you still have them coming out here saying like, well, they mean well. No, they don't.
I think it's because the implications are too diabolical. That's what I think it is. I think a lot of people because ultimately what it says is that like, this isn't actually something that is a matter of like policy debate. Like we can't debate like, you know, when we don't need different like white papers that each party will release and then we'll sort of like negotiate the technical details. Like, because that basically what I think it implies is that we're not in the realm of sort of like technocratic administrative like negotiating about like the way we're going to manage this state that we ultimately sort of share the same values in, blah blah. No, it takes it into like existential politics. Like this is politics in lieu of war type politics, like the real Schmittian kind. And I think they don't have like, a lot of people aren't really conflict oriented or like haven't really like they don't think of politics as this constant state of war where they need to be hyper vigilant. They don't want to live in that world. And so accepting the fact that leftists are in fact evil psychos who are trying to destroy everything that you love, that has kind of transformative like totalizing implications. Yeah. And when you live with near these people, you have to see them in the office each day. You have to biting that bullet is totalizing. And I don't think most people are prepared to live in a state of perpetual war, which is what it implies. But the thing is, the left is waging that against you, whether you fight back or acknowledge it or not. So like either you get up and defend yourselves, or you just keep taking it. But like the war is happening regardless. They're doing it to you first. So
yeah, gentlemen, they cry peace, peace, but the war has already begun. I mean, think of that nurse. You think of that nurse who was just, I think she was actually fired, but you know as well as I do, she'll find another job in a week. Talking, you know, just broadcasting a TikTok video or whatever it is about how I'm as a nurse and I'm going to like poison ICE agents who are seeking treatment. And
totally nonchalant about the whole thing. It's like, bitch, you are broadcasting this on the web and you have no qualms about doing it. Like, that's how I think it's sort of, our guys are like struggling to, like, not anymore so much thanks to Elon buying X, but like the idea that anyone on the right would do anything that insane is like, our people couldn't even talk to each other on the internet without having to like go under like deep cover at times in the last few years.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I had 3 different pen names.
Right. I've been permanently suspended from X like 16 times and managed to get my account back every time. But like the fact that these people have been like, it really does, I think, demonstrate like the degree of impunity that has just is totally naturalized for them. That a person in like a job like that would, in her place of work, say like ridiculous things of that nature, which is just like homicidal shit. Like saying that I'm going to use my public position in a hospital to terrorize, like murder people. How could you say that publicly and think there wouldn't be like dire implications?
Because there never have been before.
There never have been. Yeah, that's exactly right. Like they've never had a boundary enforced. They've never had any, like their parents never ever said no. I think that's a huge part of this on some level.
We go back to the shit test with the ICE agents
it really
and everything.
Is. Yeah. Yeah, like if no one ever says no, you don't learn how to self-regulate. And that's a huge part of what's going on. These people are totally dysregulated, like emotional terrors, psycho terrors.
Well, I think you bring up a really important point, and that may be the explanation. It's something I've suspected for a while. The reason conservatives resist the implications is because the implications are so terrifying. I think we saw this with the assassination of Charlie Kirk, where you had so many people, normal people, teachers, government workers, nurses, God knows, and all these people just getting on saying it is good that he was killed and you should be killed too. And I think what the right actually took away from that is not, holy crap, a third of the country would think it's hilarious if I was shot in front of my family and I have to live by these people. That's too terrifying. And so I think that's why people retreated to the sort of conspiracy theories where it's like the Egyptian Air Force or the earthquake machine, or you got hit by a falling piano or something, because like that's actually more comforting to believe that it's like weird, mysterious forces than just, no, you're actually surrounded by enemies. Like you can't fast travel here. You're surrounded by enemies.
The fact that the homosexual furry lover or whatever that fucking idiot was, like the fact that he was actually from a conservative family made it even more terrifying. Because like that's your kid, that's your son. You know what I mean? Like mentally, it's just much easier to sort of, I don't know. I think also historically, like conspiracy theories have always sort of like served a particular like purpose in terms of folklore, in terms of like sort of enabling people to reckon with things that they can't otherwise. So I think that really does, make a lot of sense. But I think that was a real mask-off moment. And then sort of the inability of the right to kind of, I think, learn the correct lessons or sort of like take away from it.
It seemed like that was the time we should have at least, because obviously like people will be like, oh, there's infighting or whatever. It's like, there are 10 different factions. I'm going to start a faction that unites everyone. It's like, okay, now there are 11 factions. I mean, like there's always going to be infighting. People are going to do shit. It comes with the territory, but you don't even necessarily need to like agree with everyone or even like somebody else, but you can recognize like, hey, we have a common enemy and we should like deal with this.
Well,
and
it
you
really
would have
does
thought
make
that
it
after Charlie Kirk would have done it.
At that point, right?
But like nobody learned.
And the fact that also a lot of them seem to think that honoring his legacy would be to then do more of what he was doing when he got killed. It's like, it's not like I knew Charlie personally, but the one thing I did observe in him is that like over the course of his career, he did progress and develop in terms of his understanding of the world around him. Like the idea that after this, the way to honor him would be to keep doing the thing that like had so radically not worked is strange to me. I think we sort of can't let go of these like notions about sort of like deliberative democracy, and like we can, if we are like polite and kind to people who want to shoot us in the neck in front of our children, somehow we'll magically like break through. Okay, all right. Good luck with that.
Yeah, politics is entertainment. And a lot of this also just comes with sort of online culture. I mean, what is the great fetish? Like, we're going to have a debate. I have never seen a debate that changed my mind about anything, because in a debate, you're not even really, in theory, if you're debating, you should be trying to convince the other guy of your position. But of course, nobody's doing that. You're showing off to an audience, and you're not even really showing off to an audience. You're just trying to like catch the guy in little clever traps or try to get a mic drop moment.
Deplatformed. I don't want to fucking hear them. I hate them. Like, they're scum. No, I don't want to hear them, whatever. But like, the point is, you can't own these people by like, yeah, as you were saying, making
With
these
facts
gay
and
little
logic.
quips and stuff. Also,
Right.
these people don't care about the truth, and they have no shame. So like, what do you get? Like, you can't embarrass them. You can't really humiliate them because they're shameless.
Right.
Like, their whole bit is, we are disgusting scum.
I mean, that's basically a political superpower. I mean, in the culture we're in now.
It sort of makes them like Teflon in some very real
Think of
sense.
somebody like Destiny. I mean, you think of all the stuff he's been through, and you're like, somehow he just keeps sticking along, and you're like, but how?
Yeah, because like, I really do think shamelessness is kind of your is like a superpower on the left. It gets you sort of like rocketed to the top, like, and also like the willingness to sort of say something one day and then say literally the exact opposite like 2 days later, as though you weren't like, as though it wasn't completely self-contradictory. Like, they all
like
do
the sudden, they all
time.
love the Second Amendment after that guy was shot. Like, we've always stood by like going to protest armed and confronting law enforcement.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely, yeah.
Like you yourself, like Keith Ellison specifically filed a motion saying you should not be allowed to do that. And then he's on TV being like, well, obviously everybody should be allowed to do that. It's like, but what's the point?
Yeah. But they are really consistent. What they want is their people to be armed to the teeth and you to be fucking defenseless. That's the way that they are consistent. Like,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a certain respect for the ones who are honest about it and don't cloak it in all this kind of moralizing language. I think it was the Socialist Rifle Association said something like, no, we don't believe in Second Amendment rights for everybody. We believe those who are advancing the class struggle should be armed, and we believe our class enemies should be disarmed. And it's like, okay, like now we're having a real conversation here. Like, we're actually talking about something real. It's
the funny thing about some of the commies is that, like, they sort of do go a bit more, like, they sort of do, don't really polish the turd quite as much as the others do. And so it's, I think some of the transgender psychos do that as well. Like, we need to
we're just going to kill you. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which you kind of respect. I mean,
funny how the only, like, the most, like, the highest key fraction of the Democrats is, like, the chicks with dicks. It's so bizarre. Like the only real men in the party are the ones who wear dresses.
Well, this is the thing, is what's so... It's crippling to participate in politics because everything is done through this feminized language of empathy and euphemism, and everybody is lying about what they're really talking about. And you're basically you're faking everything. And then you see people. Yeah. And it makes it impossible. I mean, it's like that Millennial Woes tweet, right? I mean, it's amazing how much of leftist discourse is just pretending not to understand things, thus making discourse impossible.
Yes, their whole bit is like pretending not to understand you until like they will deny the existence of something until it becomes totally undeniable, and then when they get to once they start acknowledging it, then they start minimizing. So like, it did happen, but like it's not a big deal. And then it goes from that to like, well, it did happen, but it's not a big deal, and it's your fault anyway. And like they just keep progressing with these like subtle goalpost shifts where basically like they will only acknowledge reality to the extent that you like shove it down their throat and force them to. Right. And it's this constantly iterating like negotiation because like none of this is like real.
Right.
They just deny everything. They deny and deflect, and it's all just a nonsense. It's a game. Like this is a game.
Gradually, I began to hate them. I mean, it just kind of keeps shifting and shifting and shifting.
Yeah, fully. It's just like, I don't think that there's any point discussing anything with people who don't value the truth.
But I mean, that brings up the thing that I think we should talk about, which is I think we understand what the left is and we understand what can be done with them. But the real question is, what do we do with the right? I mean, you're seeing this. I mean, there are two elements to this. One,
Yes.
the broader question of why does the right just keep falling for this empathy? Now, again, part of it might just be because there's a certain coward. I don't want to call them cowards. It's more subtle than that. Maybe it's because they just can't believe that there's such a thing as real evil, and they can't believe that they're stuck in an existential conflict because that's too terrifying, that everybody's really good at heart because they think they're good at heart, and so they don't want to recognize that. I mean, that's one thing.
There's this tendency to project your own sort of like values and orientation onto the other. And so if you're a fundamentally decent person, you sort of just assume that other people kind of have the same underlying like priors, and you just think that like quite often people do this where they sort of they project their own decency onto people who are fundamentally indecent. And I think that does happen with certain kind of conservatives. I don't think that's the problem with, like, I don't think it's a widespread problem, but I do think it's part of what's going on. The sort of like claiming that suicidal empathy is an issue. It's like, have you seen leftists? Do you actually think that empathy is what is animating these people? I don't think somebody who's trying to drive a vehicle into a law enforcement officer is overcome with empathy.
Right.
Like that's a level of ruthlessness that like I could never
that
imagine.
the right doesn't have. Yeah.
Yeah, like this isn't empathy. Like she might be suicidal, sure, but empathy has nothing to do with it. And so, like I think they sort of like to imagine. But do you know what? I really do think that's like this kind of like crypto feminism thing, where a whole bunch of guys on the right like to imagine that women can never do anything wrong, and like when they're actually being like malicious and pernicious, it's just that they like poor little meek women couldn't help themselves. So it's actually their suicidal empathy because they care so much. It's like, that's not what's going on here. Women can be evil too, you know. Like, it's okay to just say, like, these people are doing something wrong. You don't have to like pretend that. Like,
women tend to be way more ruthless in my experience in terms of being able to commit, because they're more practical in some ways and they're more ruthless in some ways. And I think you're absolutely right that guys, I mean, think of, not that women don't too, but think of how many guys lie to themselves about relationships or lie to themselves because they want to believe something about a girl. And then it's like, now apply that to politics. Yeah, it's the same thing. It's the same kind of motivations. Like, they're not sweet little angels. Like this, the same drives, the same impulses, like this is happening. This is the way nature is. And that's a very disturbing thing to come to grips with. And you especially see it among a lot of like religious conservatives, where it's just like, well, it's just a question of imposing traditional standards. Well, it's just a question of holding to a certain dogma or something like that. It's like, okay, maybe that's a check on some of these. Yeah, but like human nature is what it is. And like,
I mean,
nature is red in tooth and claw.
How do you impose like the moral norms of a society that doesn't exist anymore to enforce those moral norms?
That's exactly right. Yeah.
And naturalize them in institutions and social relations. It just is like a very strange thing to me, which isn't to say that like I'm particularly progressive. I'm pretty like, you know, I'm very like, I do think that like men and women are really different. And that like I'm pretty like not traditional in any like corny way, but just as in like I think that like the differences between men and women and different races and like all these things need to actually be honored rather than denied and kind of brutalized or whatever. But like it's I don't know.
No, but I mean it's an important point in that even especially conservative men, especially more religiously conservative men, who I think there is a bit of wishful thinking there, where they'll say, okay, well, men and women are different, but women need to be protected and they're soft and they don't understand what's going on. It's like, no, like they have a ruthlessness and they have an agency and they have drives that like you can't comprehend. And furthermore, men do too. It's just maybe you don't, but the guys on the other side are willing to do the things that you're not willing to do. They're not like you. And you have to acknowledge like these people exist in the world and they have power over you if they're willing to go to a length that you're not.
Yeah, we're sort of talking about dad guy now, aren't we?
Yeah,
like
right. Well, I liked your definition of fascism. Fascism is when dad says no.
It is really. I had never encountered all this like accusations of fascism in my life before, and then suddenly, like, I don't know, and it's just sort of occurred to me, like, you start observing the things that they call fascist, and fundamentally, I think what they call fascist is like actually nature, like the fact that there are differences.
The ultimate fascist.
Yeah, really. And like, so the dad thing's a joke, but then like another one I did that popped off a bit was like, fascism is when that stupid bitch is hotter than me. Like, I think that like.
Yeah. No, that's a really good point, because I mean, I don't want to keep bringing it back to relationships, but it's an interesting comparison, because nobody believes that everybody's equal when it comes to like sex. Nobody believes when everybody's equal when it comes to like attraction. Nobody believes everybody's equal when it comes to relationships. But like now we have to pretend that like they are. And it's like, but you're just a liar if you say that. And now we're doing this with politics, and it's like, but they're not. Like, nobody's equal.
They do that because they call these people, like, I saw this girl doing it today where she was talking about partners. And I'm like, what is a partner? I think that you're talking about a business partner. Like, I don't, the idea that I would call my like husband or boyfriend a partner is so absurd. Like,
yeah, like if I go inside and call my wife my partner, she should leave me immediately. I mean,
yeah, absolutely. Like that's like the like weirdest, most like asexual gender common thing. Like, what are you doing? Like, this is absolutely not my partner. Like, we're not doing like lab work together.
Right. And you see the same sort of thinking when it comes to race, to demographics, where forget like racial differences and biology, whatever else. We don't need to get into that, but more in the mindset where we've got these social systems, and we're seeing this now in Minnesota, and we're seeing this throughout the country. We have these social systems, we have these legal systems that were basically built by 130 IQ Anglo men. And it's like, well, everyone's an 130 IQ Anglo man. And it's like, no, first of all, not everybody is 130 IQ. But second, even those who are from different groups do not accept what you consider to be the way things are done. They do not consider clannishness to be a bad thing. They do not consider in-group preference to be a bad thing. They do not consider doing unfair things to help your group to be morally illegitimate. In fact, they may say that's morally righteous and incumbent upon you to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think it's funny because there is sort of like certain factions that I think certain like, maybe it's died out by now, but like there is a kind of tendency, I think, among some Australian guys and certain like Southern guys in the States towards a kind of like honor culture-ish, but it is so different to the kind of like honor culture of like Middle Eastern and kind of, you know.
Yeah, totally
like,
different animal.
Yeah. And it's sort of really interesting, like watching, I think, certain like Australian guys or like American guys like realize like the asymmetry between these things as well, where you'll say like, yeah, I don't know. I'm sort of getting off topic now, but
no, but I think it's when people will say things like, well, why is it that Somalis, say the average IQ is whatever it is, why are they able to do all these sorts of things? And people say, oh, well, they're being coached and it's actually somebody else who's doing this. And it's like, okay, yeah, maybe that's all true, but when you have a social system and a welfare system and a government aid system that is built upon people not taking advantage of it, and also people not being willing to lie for each other and cover for each other, and then you have a whole group come in where their whole morality and their whole ethos is built upon lying for each other, covering for each other, ripping off outsiders. Like, how do you fight that? And the answer is, within the legal system that exists, you really can't. Because how are you going to get them to rat out on their own? They're just not going to.
You can't. You literally can't, especially with that sort of like Nordic like sensibility of like, you know, that sort of like Midwest niceness that, you know.
Right. And the same issues are happening in Sweden too. I mean, it's uncanny.
The thought of being called unkind. And so there was even the New York Times printed this, that there were a bunch of situations where like overtly legal people who were trying to hold these Somali fraudsters accountable were being told like, oh, that's bigoted of you, and so they backed off.
Right.
It's just like if like at that point it's over. You don't have a society, you don't have laws. If all it takes is for somebody to be like, you're a mean person, and you'll be like, okay, well, I guess I won't enforce the law then. Like, what?
Well, I guess the question becomes, because this is really, I think, what we're kind of talking about, and this is why I think this conversation is being pretty productive, because it's really important. Why does this cut so deeply? Like, why does being called a racist or a bigot? And I think what it is, it's not just moral shaming. It's not just wanting to be thought of as a good person. I think there is an element of fear there, not just the fear of, social stigma or whatever, but the fear of recognition that people fundamentally are different from you. And therefore, the mental model and the morality you've built for how to like deal with society is actually wrong. Like, that's a terrifying way to go through life, to be like, oh, wait, actually, I can't understand these people at all. And I never will.
I think also like one of the things that people sort of really forget with all of this shit is that the only people that actually upsets or offends is people who genuinely are not the thing they're being accused of. Because like if you genuinely consider yourself to be somewhat racist, you're not going to be defensive against that. You're not going to be offended by it. You're not going to be like, oh no, like that's really it's literally like the people who genuinely like are not that way at all, that they wield this against as a weapon. And that to me is such a fucking contemptible thing to do to people. Because you really are terrorizing them by taking what they value and then accusing them of violating it. Right. And basically terrorizing them publicly and like sort of holding them up as this like example of like moral impropriety when they've done nothing wrong. And I don't know, it's just, it's sick.
It's an excellent point. And it's, it'd be like calling a non-Christian a heretic or something. Like, it's not going to work. But if you call somebody within your church a heretic, that could be a big deal, because that's their social life, that's their friends, that's their social standing, that's their beliefs and everything else.
Yeah, and it's also like I do think that sort of one advantage I had being Australian was that like I wasn't as ensconced in sort of like American like race culture psyop bullshit, and so suddenly being called like a white supremacist for the first time in my life and like a fascist, a racist, all this other shit, I'm like, but I'm not, and also like that. This is weird. Like this is something political is going on here. This is just used as like a mechanism of censure. Like it's like this is a political weapon. It became very apparent to me that like it has nothing to do with the thing it's supposedly about. And then so like I don't know if it gets like I think that if you're at a point where that can be wielded as a defensive mechanism against any and all kinds of crimes and corruption and everything else, it's just like, well, either we just render this term meaningless or it's just a get out of jail free card for anyone who's like remotely not white.
Right. Which seems to be what's happening up in Minnesota. I mean, what's extraordinary to me, I mean, first, the specific people, as you point out, that are being defended where they're not, I mean, this is the criticism of Trump from the right? That he's not just going after like random illegals and people are like, oh, where are the mass deportations? And it's like, well, if you look at the polling, he's going after the people who are the most unsympathetic, and you have people willing to fight and die to defend those people. And then you look at the fraud that's been exposed and you have people saying, well, it's not a big deal. Actually, the real moral problem is that these right wingers who are, they're not real journalists. I know, because they actually exposed something. They're not real journalists. And what they did is they exposed this stuff. And now the Somali community is facing a backlash. Like the fact of the fraud doesn't even enter into it. Well, there was a guy, Lawrence Oster. Go ahead.
If the Somali community is facing backlash because fucking excuse my language, but like if 90% of the people accused of like the biggest fraud that has ever happened in that state are from Somalia, if like American taxpayers' money is being funneled en masse to Al-Shabaab, like, yeah, that's good. when people of your group do bad things, that kind of reflects on a bunch of you. That's how that works. That's how societies work. Like, I don't know, as somebody who's like, my dad's Christian, but he is from Lebanon and he's been here forever. But like, my thing and what he always taught us was like, to be honest, I've never been like sort of coded as anything other than but Australian. But like, my dad's bit was always like, if people have assumptions about you, like, prove them wrong through your actions, you know? But like,
yeah, that was what I was always taught too.
Right. Like, so it's like the fact that at no point do any of these people say, oh, well, let's try to sort of improve the reputation of our group by performing better, by being better, by contributing more to the society that we're in. Instead, it's like they go on the attack and make you the bad guy and seem to think that they're like immune from any kind of like accountability for the shit that like large factions of their subaltern community have done. It's like...
Right. Yeah, there's this Indian concept of Izzat, which is basically that, you know, it's, you could call it like honor, you could call it standing or status or whatever, but what's extraordinary about it is that it's completely disconnected from moral conduct. So I don't know, if some Indian guy's working for me and I discover he's stealing from the company and I report him and get him fired, like now to restore his dignity, he and all his relatives and everybody else have to wage this unrelenting war against me because I've wronged him, even though from our morality, we would be like, well, he was a thief and you can't just steal from the company. But that's not what's important. What's important from his viewpoint is that I assaulted his standing and therefore you have to strike back. And if you're this individualist, legalistic, Northern European type, you're just not, or you're in a Northern European culture and you just assume these moral premises are like universal, which is itself a Northern European thing to do, to assume your own moral premises are universal.
So. Yeah.
People are like, oh, well, I believe everybody should be treated equally as an individual. I'm like, oh, you're Northern European. I get it. Yeah. Well, I'm Italian, so, you know, neither do I. Yeah, right. But once you don't have a way to fight that within the system that we have now. And I think that's like the hidden thing on the right that I think people are talking about quietly, but nobody's really grappled with, which is within the Constitution we have, within the legal system we have, there may not be a way to solve this problem. Like even with these raids, and I think what the Trump administration is doing is like even the pace it's setting as far as Minnesota goes, is probably about right. If they just went all out, you know, maybe the people aren't ready for that. But what do you do when you're arresting these people and the judges are just letting them go because the judge likes illegal immigration and the judge is a non-white who was appointed by the Democrats or whatever else? How do you deal with that within the system? Because at a certain point, you just can't. And I think what a lot of Americans are uncomfortable with is the idea that the Constitution was not made for everybody. It was just made for a specific kind of people. I mean, I think there is this terror that the constitutional order that we have, it's not going to survive with all these different groups. It was basically designed just for basically a Northern European people, and it doesn't work outside that. And I think this defines everything we've been talking about. The conservatives are afraid to recognize what's really happening on the left because then it means they're in a fight, and they're not ready for it.
No, they're not. I think on some level, the conservatives have also just kind of internalized like the hegemonic, like leftist ideology and like normativity. And so it's like, how are they going to be equipped to fight the very thing that they're ensconced in as well? You know, they don't really have the tools to do it, which is why you see them sort of like accusing the left of not being leftist enough, you know? Right. That's the only criticism they have of them, is that they're not doing leftism with enough sincerity. It's like conservatives make the best leftists. They really do. Like they actually believe in the things that the left is kind of cynically weaponized to like get power. It's like,
That's definitely true when it comes to racial stuff. The only people who really seem to believe in colorblindness seem to be white American conservatives.
Yeah, it's wild. I find that, like, again, as an outsider, like the extent to which they'll prop up like pretty shitty people just because they're minorities so that they can like feel as if they're doing the right thing and can't be accused of this, that, and the rest. It's like, You don't get it. Like, do you actually think that this is an insurance policy? The left is racist isn't like an accusation about anything you've done. It's a metaphysical status that the left uses to label you as the other and bad. That's it. Right. It's not because you've done anything, so you can't like insulate yourself against it by hiring Candace Owens or whatever. Like, get a grip. You know, like that's just not how any of this works.
Yeah, same thing with fascist and Nazi at this point. It has nothing to do with fascism or Nazism.
No, just embrace it and laugh at it. That's the only thing you can do. Because if you defend yourself against this crap, you're just sharpening the left's weapons for them. Whereas if you embrace it and say, yeah, absolutely, yeah, that's me, totally, then it loses its power.
Yeah.
But when you start defending against it and being like, oh, that's this really bad thing, or like, oh, well, the left don't really believe in anti-racism, look at how racist they're being. It's like, what are you doing? Like, why are you helping their concepts that only ever get actually weaponized against us? Why would you sharpen those weapons?
Right.
It means nothing when you accuse them of it, but
no. I mean, that's the biggest thing is you never see them like
our guys, you know. So stop giving it any authority at all. Yeah,
right. There's nothing you can say to them that will give them a sense of shame. I mean, if you tell them like, oh, you're defending a rapist, you're defending a murderer, or whatever, like with these ICE protests, like that's not even going to give them pause.
These people are sitting around in diapers. These people are sitting around in diapers and shit. Like they're fucking weird creeps with no shame. Like you really can't keep putting like your worldview or like your sense of like decency or propriety onto these people. Like what was it, like a Democrat, I think it was a Democratic senator, flew down to some South American country to have like cocktails with his MS-13 cat as though he was like some American citizen. Like these people are out to lunch. Like, stop pretending that, like, they share the same values as you and you can all get along. They don't.
Right. And if there's one thing we could say to people on the right, it would basically be that. Thank you so much for, like, being, I really had a lot of fun with this. I'm going to have you back on here today. Where can people find you right now?
Oh, yeah. Right now, Sydney, Australia.
No, I mean, online. I mean, I suppose there, too. Joking. Don't tell the leftists where you are.
Yeah. So just at Aimee Tersese on, I keep wanting to say Twitter, I guess X now.
No, it's tough an adjustment.
Yeah, it really is. Like, I don't think I've ever said X before, but I guess I'm on X. And yeah, I think that's about it. I don't really do other social media. That's kind of all of it for now. But yeah, watch that space. If I like anything new, I'll post there anyway. So.
Well, you're killing it there, so I really appreciate it.
Thanks so much. Yeah, I really enjoyed chatting with you. It's been really fun.
All right. So real quick, I want to talk about the question of the normie. And I kind of hinted at this at the end there. When you're doing this sort of stuff full time, or even thinking about it a lot, or even just tweeting about it, unlike most people, you develop this sort of contempt for the normies. Like, well, they just want to grill. They're not paying attention to these sorts of things. Why don't I understand this? I think this is a mistake for two reasons. One, fundamentally, who are we trying to lead? Fundamentally, who are our people? Like, this isn't just a talking shop. We're trying to actually connect to the masses and get them to go in a certain direction. And so if you can't connect with them, that's on you. But the second thing is that the normies are actually tougher, I think, than many of the people on our side, even many in the so-called vanguard, because many in the vanguard are thinking of reasons why this can't work. Why we can't get away with this, why we're not being subtle enough, we're not being intellectual enough. Yesterday's interview with Tom Murdoch, he talked about how arguments have to be reduced to sort of an 8th grade level, and then you just kind of hammer away at these slogans over and over again. And you may say, well, that's unintellectual and it shouldn't be this way. But really, anything important does come down to something that's simple. I mean, what are we talking about with immigration? It's a very simple question. Do you want these people to go or not? Because if they don't go, you don't have a country. Every single illegal that comes to this country disenfranchises you. Everyone on top of that means that now you are not only disenfranchised, but they are ruling you. They are now the majority. If you go to a normal person and say, what do you think about this? He may say something like, what is there to discuss? They're illegal. They need to go. And all the people at the Heritage Foundation and all the people in Congress and maybe even a lot of people on our side are going to say, well, it's a little more complicated than that. It's actually not that complicated. We don't need to spend that much time coming up with clever arguments or sophisticated rationales to do what we all know needs to be done. Really, it just comes down to two things: building the will, the political will of the people on our side, and ignoring the emotional blackmail coming from the other side. It really is that simple. The solutions are very obvious. There really is a fix everything switch. There's not a single problem that this country is facing which could not be solved within a week with sufficient political will. But we just need the courage to take our own side and do what we've always known is going to have to be done. See you next time. All right, guys, that's it for today's episode of Identity Politics. If you found this valuable and you want to see more of this kind of work, here's how you can help. First, follow the show and share it with people who need to hear it. We're on Rumble, Odyssey, YouTube, X, TikTok, and you can also grab the RSS feed. Sharing it is the fastest way for us to grow. Second, sign up for our email list so we can always stay in direct contact no matter what the platforms decide. And most importantly, if you believe in our mission and want to keep it going, please consider supporting us on Ko-Fi. You can donate once or subscribe at the bronze, silver, gold, or white level. Every contribution, big or small, helps keep Identity Politics independent and alive. All the links are in the description below. Thanks for watching. Thanks for supporting. We'll see you next time.